Hello everyone, and welcome to GuildGab episode 46. This is a show all about Guild Wars 2, and today we're going to be talking about the feedback from the beta weekend event that was last weekend, where we got to play the first 4 elite specializations as well as the Revenant. And we're also going to be talking about the newly announced elite specialization for the Revenant, the Herald. Not expecting. Oh my god! Was not expecting that name at all, I gotta say, personally. But first, let me introduce everyone. Today, we have myself, AuroraPeachy, as well as Akasaurus Rex, Alex of the RPG Shack, and Corvus.
What's going on?
We are down in inks. We're not sure what happened. I think he got lost in the mists, so he might show up at some point. He might not. I'm not sure. We hope you're okay, Inks.
See that was sleeping off the beta weekend.
Yeah, that's my best guess. Is he apparently did like a 17-hour stream or something from the beta weekend. So, which just kind of sucks that he's not here because I'm sure he has like an insane amount of stuff to say. So
yeah, man.
But anyway, so what did you guys play? Like, how did you guys play the beta weekend? Did you play all the specializations?
I tried to play at least a couple of hours of everything, but I spend most of my time on the Revenant. But yeah, I got in a few hours of got a little bit of time with all the classes.
Nice.
But Revenant was where it was at for me.
Nice.
Did you like Shiro? Sorry.
Shiro is unbelievably awesome. It's so much fun. It's really great because a lot of the utility skills are actually kind of support and bolster your ability to do damage, and this kind of like missed jumps and that kind of thing, like the Unrelenting Assault on Sword 3, which is the greatest skill in the game, by the way. Like 100 Blades has nothing on that. It's so cool. And just the elite skill as well, the Jade Wind, where you just like stun. I think it's like whatever it is, the maximum amount of enemies for 5 seconds, and they just turn into like solid rock in front of you, and just like, yes, I love this.
I played a lot of Reaper.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, that's shocking.
Yeah, that might be a surprise for you all. And it was
Did you use
friggin'
Frostfang?
amazing. No, I didn't actually.
Well, you gotta use a greatsword.
Well, that's it, greatsword and dagger warhorn. But it was friggin' so good, and like you come back out and you go on your stupid little necro and you're like, where's the good shroud, you know?
It's the good shroud.
Death Shroud, get in the bin, dude. Seriously, Reaper Shroud is incredible. Like the amount of might, the amount of vulnerability, like everything.
It's
is just
so easy to get 25 stacks.
It's crazy. It's like stupid.
I honestly can't see people playing Necromancer. I can only see Reapers.
And I kind of had, I mean, I thought like maybe when they first showed it off and it was meant to be this kind of, you know, there's high risk, high reward kind of thing. Like, you know, you're a light armor class that's in like right up and close and it's dangerous, but your attacks are slow, but they do loads of damage too. And I was like, oh, well, maybe, you know, it'll force you to play in a way that a lot of people might not like, and so people will still play Necro. No way. Like it's just, I'm not saying it's like easy. It didn't really feel any different to Necro, really. It just better. It just was better, and I don't know. I don't mind. I'm gonna be a Reaper, but like obviously it sucks. You want some. There'll be some uses somewhere. Obviously, like the way specialization lines work out and stuff like that. There will obviously be still room for Necro somewhere, maybe. But I don't know. Reaper was just amazing. I loved the hell out of it. So good.
It was. I kind of put together this a chill and vulnerability build. Obviously, like a lot of the Reaper stuff is about chilling, but there's you can trait it up so you have, I think it's Axe and Focus, because Focus 4 or Focus 5 is Spinal Shivers, and that's just an extra chill and extra vulnerability you've got there, and you can trait so that going into Uber Shroud gives you might and afflicts vulnerability, and then you put on Well of Suffering as well, which gives extra vulnerability and might shouts, and it just gets, and then that elite skill as well.
Yeah.
Oh my!
It's like Jade Wince, but cooler. You know?
Yeah. It's perfect. Oh! I like it. I like it. That's what you did there. Get it? Cool.
That was amazing as well, especially on the large mobs that were in Verdant Brink, because you just see this giant ice thing come out. It's like 3 times the size as any playable character. This huge block of ice that you just made. It's so good. I kind of thought some of the shouts were a bit eh. The elite one was amazing. The heal one was okay. Like the stun breaky one that I think it converted boons or something. I don't know, that was quite good, but I kind of kept to my wells and stuff with the elite.
I'm not quite sure why you take the Reaper elite over Smite. What is it? Consume conditions. Over the heal skill.
It's too good. I mean, like, yeah, okay, it gives you 5 vulnerability, but I mean, who really cares, you know?
Yeah, I think it's if you pair it with a Revenant. If you pair it with a Malix Revenant in your party, you can group resistance. So, and then on top of all that, you've got.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the heal skill, like the shout it's better. It's like really good for building up life force, but that's kind of easy anyway. You know, I don't know. I don't really notice it too much. I don't know.
So, AuroraPeachy, what did you play?
Of course, I jumped right into the Dragon Hunter. Traps and all, and loved it.
Yeah?
Loved it. I didn't get to play too much, but that I did play was amazing. I basically ran around the Silver Wastes, laying traps, using my longbow, and it just felt so good. Like, I mean, I love longbow. Longbow is what I wanted on Guardian, or on Dragon Hunter on its Elite, so that made me happy, first of all. And when they first announced Dragon Hunter, I wasn't quite sure, like, traps, okay, you know, I'm not sure, but, like, just actually using them on a Guardian, because I don't use traps on my Ranger, so, and Ranger is my second favorite, so I wasn't familiar with traps, but using them and pulling, like, setting a trap, pulling the enemies into it, and just seeing these awesome animations, like that blade wall that comes up and just, like, traps them. If the enemy does come in close, I can lay down a bunch of traps and then, like, dodge roll out of there, and then they're, like, trapped in the trap, and it felt so good. It felt like it flowed. Like, I felt like I didn't have to, like, do tons of practice to try and perfect it, you know? It just felt organic, and I wasn't expecting that, so that was really, really, it was a really pleasant surprise.
Do you think that Dragon Hunter put out enough damage on its traps and with the long? I mean,
I might have not been spec'd for damage. I'm not sure. I didn't pay that close attention to the damage. Is that generally a concern in the community?
I certainly felt that it didn't feel like it was powerful enough. I only kind of tried it out in the testing grounds in the mists. Obviously, Dragon Hunter is supposed to be much more supporty than your standard Guardian, but
I'm sure you can spec it to do more damage, but it's not going to be the highest output damage elite spec, because that's not what it's built for.
Yeah, for sure,
you know?
for sure.
I don't know. I was just expecting a little bit, not like a huge extra amount of damage, but maybe just that little kind of kick more, just to kind of push, to kind of bring it up into competition with something like the Reaper. I mean, even though I'm sure I've said multiple times on Twitter and other social media that the idea of the elite specs is not just to add more damage dealers into the game.
Right. This is also only the first elite specs. We're going to get more in the future, so, you know, Reaper just does tons of damage, so the next one, you know, it might do more of something else. You know, it's going to change up the playstyle, so even if if the Dragon Hunter this is, like, my hope and, like, kind of, like, what's keeping me, you know, hopeful for the future, is that, you know, if the Dragon Hunter is not the greatest damage dealer in the game, then maybe its next one, its next elite spec will be spec'd for more damage, and then we'll have a really hard-hitting Guardian.
Yeah, it could be all smiting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Ooh, yes.
Like a
smiting monk from Guild Wars 1.
Smitey monk.
Yes.
Yeah. I do miss that. Smite monks were really fun. And
Yes.
they did a ton of damage as well.
Because it was all holy damage. It was all divine damage. Yes.
Oh, it's lovely. Lovely.
I love
I'm
the
actually
mark.
really, really, really hoping that the Druid Elite is like a really high damage one, just because I really would love to have like staff high damage weapons of like nature magic weapons. I really want that.
I can't see the druid being that, but you have a good point where we don't really have a staff that is like known for being the damage dealer.
Till Thief.
They'll possibly Thief. If Thief gets staff, that's
what
true.
about Revenant staff? Revenant staff is
I
hefty.
guess.
It's not like amazing.
A lot of people
damage.
I heard a lot of people have been using that with like Shiro and stuff, and it's actually felt quite good.
Yeah. Shiro, like really weirdly, Shiro Ventari feels really, really good to play. Ventari is just, I wasn't keen on the idea of playing like the supporty kind of Ventari, because it's kind of obvious that staff is supposed to go with Ventari and sword and other sword. Even though I think sword axe or sword mace or whatever the offhand one is, will probably end up being the desired combination. But staff and Ventari is so much fun. Honestly, I couldn't get enough of Ventari. I was just like, I mean, a lot of it was me just messing around, just running around and going, oop, and I can take my tablet here, and then I can take my tablet here. And I was just like running around, just dragging my tablet with me, just going, oh, this is amazing. But some of the skills are really, really good. Like the I can't remember what it's called, but there's a skill where you channel a reflective bubble. And you can everyone can just like stand inside it, and there's like dudes like firing bullets and arrows onto the outside, and they're not going. It's really, really cool. But at the same time, it still means that you still have to attack. Because it's a channeled skill, you still have to keep the upkeep of your energy going, and that's what's fantastic about so many of the Revenant skills. I don't think that Jalis has a channeled skill. But Malix's Elite is a channel. Shiro 9 is a channel. Ventari 7 is a channel, and that's it. And I think a lot of the heralds, which we're probably going to get onto later in the show, they seem to be mostly channels as well. But I've not had a big chance to look at the.
And what was it like?
Big,
Because it had weapon swap, right? The Revenant. I never played any Revenant.
Yeah.
Did that
they
feel
added
good?
weapon swap, yeah.
Yeah. Weapon swap felt really, really good. Felt really natural. It was, I think, you can very easily, now you've got the two weapon sets, you can very easily equip yourself to be very offensive or pretty defensive, actually. Shiro and Malix are just amazing fun. Because with Axe Mace, you can generate your own might and then switch to Shiro and pump out more ferocity, and then jump back to Malix and trade up for putting a whole bunch of conditions out. It's just I absolutely loved it, and I enjoyed Dragon Hunter as well. I did enjoy Dragon Hunter, especially like using the bow. And what did you guys think of it? What did you think of the new virtues, or the way that the virtues worked?
They're similar to the other virtues. They have, you have your fire heal and your Aegis, but they're more directional. So the only thing is with the the Aegis, though, the virtue of resolve, is that the? I'm sorry.
I think it is.
I'm terrible with the names. It puts down like just like the Revenant puts down the healing orbs. It puts down orbs of Aegis, so your allies can run over the orbs and get Aegis. And oh my gosh, that felt so good. I was like, yes, like because I love that's something I loved with the Guardian, and even though I love that the virtues are shouts with the Guardian, and they're more of just like a skill that you have to direct with the Dragon Hunter. Like, there's still skills like that can easily affect everyone in the area. You kind of put the responsibility on your allies to think of their positional awareness, because you get that shield in front of you, so you can position yourselves position your allies in front of you, but behind your shield. that your shield wall that it creates and protect them. So, and it really reminds me a lot of the Revenant, because the Revenant has a lot of skills like that, especially Ventari.
There's a skill quite like that on Hammer as well. It's either Hammer 3 or 4 where you can put up that wall.
Right.
As well, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not only, these elite specs are not only giving yourself positional awareness, but your allies, if they're smart, you know, if they see a Dragon Hunter or if they see a Revenant, it's going to benefit them to pay attention to where their allies are, not just run around in a Zerg and, you know.
Yeah.
Zerg.
Zerg.
Do the Zerg thing.
Did you guys try any of the other elite specs?
I played Ellie. Well, I didn't play it. I just went on it and made one to look at the animations, and then that's it.
I'll admit that's the first thing I did. I sat there with the Guardian. I put off all my skills, and I'm just like, yes, look at these animations. They're amazing. It's so pretty. The big dragon's maw that comes up, the elite skill. It's like, it feels so good.
But I think we're getting a lot of Chronomancer love in chat. And did any of you guys try out the Chronomancer?
No.
I did not. No.
I'm annoyed at Mesmers at the moment because of how they are. They're in PvP at the moment. They're just infuriating.
Unstoppable. Yeah.
It's since the specialization change thing, they've just been kind of insane. Like, you don't even see them because they stealth. They build up all their clones and stuff, and then you see them for 2 seconds and you're dead. And that's kind of just insane burst.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Chronomancer is insane. It's so much fun, and I wasn't looking forward to playing it. I was just going, I'll check it out. I'll chuck the shield thing around. So much utility. It's honestly, it's so fantastic. There's stuff that they went through in the points of interest that they couldn't demonstrate properly. Like there's a skill 4 which is like Echo of something or other, and on the skill card it flips over to Deja Vu. If you get attacked. So when you have this bubble up, if you get attacked and you like summon a clone anyway, if you get attacked and the attack is blocked, the skill essentially recharges itself. So you get to use it a second time and summon a second clone instantly. So you essentially get, in combat, you get 2 goes of the same thing, and just running around and beating the crap out of those hapless golems in the mists. And the gravity well, you pull them all in and you can line them all up, and then you can just chuck your wells down where it like pulses for blindness or vulnerability or whatever, and then does a huge pulse at the end. It's so much fun, and alacrity as well. It's the greatest thing. It's absolutely fantastic, and you know, one of the really annoying things about Mesmer is that they're quite slow, aren't they? When you're wandering around in the world, they're pretty slow. One of the you've all frozen.
Oh.
You're fine for me.
You all froze for a second there. You were just like,
okay.
we were listening intently to your words.
All of our butts were clenched. Just
one of the I forgot what I was saying now.
You're talking about alacrity.
Oh yeah,
it's
alacrity.
No, you're talking about them being slow, right?
About being so. Apparently
Slow
gravity well doesn't pull in anymore, which is a shame. But it didn't really need it, so. But there we go. There's a minor trait on the Chronomancer line where it's where you get a default 20% speed buff. So I was like running around, I was like, why is my Mesmer faster? I don't understand. It's to us. I think that float at the end looks absolutely fantastic, Monkey. It's kind of instead of just pulling them in line for attacks, you get that extra. It's like a 5-second stun or something. It's absolutely insane. And if you combine that with Continuum Shift, this new Shatter skill, because the amount that you can run around is very much dependent on how many illusions you have up. So if you have 3 illusions up and you use your Continuum Split, you get you you get more time in this secondary dimension or whatever. So you can jump into it, you can use a gravity well, mess everybody up, and then jump back to where you were, and then use it again. It's so much fun. It's absolutely insane. But it is very, very easy to cock up, though, because if you're just like, yeah, I'm going to use all my skills, and then you go to continuum split, and you're just like, why are my skills recharging?
Yeah.
And someone's used it the wrong way around, and they're just like, oh no!
That's the thing about Chronomancer. I can see somebody just one wrong move with that continuum shift, and you can screw yourself so easily if you're not paying attention.
And people are saying that the float at the end's kind of, it's really easy to get out of the well. Like you could just dodge roll out and you're safe. But I don't know, like because it's such a big stun in the big pulse, like maybe it's just there to be like, yeah, you might be able to avoid it, but if you don't avoid it, it's like really punishing, like, for your enemies if they don't manage to get out of it. I don't know. There's obviously still tweaks to be made and stuff. Like maybe it could, I don't know, cripple people or something in it, so it's harder for them to get out or something.
It's still in beta, right? It's still in beta. They're still
right?
Changing stuff. And I bet the next beta weekend, there's going to be a lot of these skills that change depending on the feedback. The feedback is so important, guys. If you played the beta weekend and you have any kind of feedback, go on the forums, and they have designated feedback forums and stuff, and tell them what you think, because as we saw, they are willing to change stuff. I mean, we got weapon swap on Revenant. Like, that's huge. That's huge. A huge, and that's just because of our feedback from playing it. So,
can you throw your shield as the Chronomancer? Isn't that an ability?
No,
like
it's
huck your shield. Isn't there?
You
one
can.
like
There's one that creates protective bubble. There's a skill that creates a protective bubble around you. The skill 5 is you throw this kind of wall of energy out. I think it.
Right.
I think as it passes through bad guy, it either stuns or slows them or cripples them or something. I can't quite remember which one. And then as it comes back, you can change where you are on the battlefield. So if you want it to go out one way and then you want it to come back through a different group of enemies, you can change your position on the battlefield so it moves back to you. So you can say, I'm here, then you can move over here and it'll come back to you. Yeah, and it grants, I think it grants, is it swiftness or super speed? Oh, quickness. It grants quickness to allies, and I think it might give alacrity as well, but I can't quite remember. But
I just love using shields as bashing things. I like to hit things with my shields.
But no, it was like alacrity is one of the greatest things that that's come into the game. If anyone was kind of going, Chronomancer and shield, yay, alacrity is just gonna sort it all out. Like, it's such a phenomenal skill, and then you can combine that with, or if you're a Tempest, you can combine it with your elite skill, which is Rebound, which reduces the next skills recharge that you use by 25%. So say if you want to get a whole ton of Frostbows down on the ground, Alacrity and Rebound, boom, you can churn them out really quickly, especially if you're the only Elementalist in the party.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It's just so cool, and yeah.
How do you feel in terms of I don't know, like, do you think the Reaper is gonna be kind of requested in dungeons, or at least have a place a bit more than Necro is? Do you think Chronomancer, I think, is safe to say it's gonna have a stronger place than it does at the moment in dungeons and stuff like that, or do you think it's still gonna be the same warrior, Ellie, Guardian kind of setup?
Thief, yeah. I don't know. I mean, in my mind, I can't see the Reaper lending itself towards the Zerka mentality. I think we'll have to see what happens with new content and see how they can implement a non-Zerka meta in Heart of Thorns.
What's annoying for Necros at the moment is like so many bosses you fight are like immune to blind, they're immune to chill, or immune to cripple, that kind of thing. There's not very many boons on bosses that you can corrupt. And it's just like everything, like the Necro's good at stuff, but the stuff it's good at is never really required. you know, like, and I think, and I'm really hoping that there's more things like that, properly controllable bosses and things like that. So, I don't know, I'm hoping that the kind of challenging content's going to bring in a place for a lot more classes like that. So.
I certainly think that the changes that ArenaNet have made to how condition damage works, the condition patch, now that it can actually stand relatively well against the Zerka meta, like conditions are just, they're exceptionally powerful now. I mean, like racking up 25 stacks of bleed is, well, like way more than that. You know,
Yeah.
When you fight bosses, have you seen it where it gets to the point where it stops counting and the little exclamation mark just appears in the air over the little shield, and you're just like, oh, so doing quite a lot of bleeds here. It's but Kentsu in chat says Chill on Reaper is very lackluster.
Lackluster.
I can understand that to a point, because no one's going to be interested in how well you can chill a bad guy in a dungeon.
I think the chill
current dungeons,
but the chill's not chill isn't. I mean, it's a cool condition. You know, it slows like your, again, PvP. It'll make your cooldowns last longer. That kind of thing. It's, yeah, okay, it limits mobility, but it's not like it's, you know, a massive burning stacks. Look at all my burning stacks. You know, something you would show off. It's more of a, it's to enable the Reaper to stay close to the target more than anything else. I don't know.
The vulnerability is just as important as well as the chill.
For sure, for sure. Vuln comes quite easily these days, though, I think. It's cool for solo stuff, but another one of my concerns is that, yeah, okay, you can get loads of vulnerability. Yeah, you can get yourself to 25 stacks of might really easily. Is that really going to be wanted in a dungeon run or something? You know, like, it's good stuff, but it's still kind of more solo-oriented, and I really hope that, I don't know, maybe it'll bring some more, I don't know, maybe the content will be designed in a way that you might need it. I don't know, I'd love a dungeon with 5 paths, and you need to split up and go down, and I don't know, Reaper would be particularly good at this one path, or would be able to carry itself through that, while a lot of other classes that thrive in groups might not be able to handle it so well, that kind of thing, and I don't know. I just want a purpose, a bit more of a strong purpose. Reaper's incredible, and I love it, and it's gonna be good anyway. No class is bad in a dungeon. It's just some are way more effective than others.
What? Sorry?
Oh, nothing. Sorry.
No, nothing.
Let's pause the show real quick. I think we have an Inks.
Oh no!
You could wear like
I'm liking it again, guys.
Yeah, you are. We got a nice picture of you. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I got a nice picture.
You froze on a nice picture.
So who got to play Tempest?
I think I logged about 5 hours or so in Tempest. It was one of the classes that I played. Tempest and Chronomancer were two of the classes that I played like the least in the beta. Just because like Mesmer is not a main of mine. And so, you know, I understand the basics of the Mesmer and how to play it, but I'm not real great at the ins and outs of the class. So, but anyway, Tempest, yeah, so I played about 5 hours of Tempest, mostly PvE. I didn't take it into structured PvP too much, just because I feel like Dagger Ellie already works so well. And I didn't really think that the Warhorn was, and I could be wrong, could be totally wrong on this. I don't really think the Warhorn was that fantastic when it came to like structured PvP. Unless you could, you know, unless you were going to buddy up with somebody, because I felt like the Tempest really excelled when you were around other people. When I played in PvE open world, I was playing like an aura share build, and it was actually really fantastic as far as I was running around with 2 or 3 other people, just random people, and we were doing what events were working, and I kept giving them different auras and buffing them and giving them might, and it really worked well in that situation. And I know in World vs. World, I watched a couple of videos where there was a Tempest in a group of 5, and the players seemed really good and competent, but they were taking on groups of 10, 15, 20 people and winning those fights.
Wow.
Because the Tempest was really giving out blinds, and they were giving might, and they were just really supporting the group very well. So I think that's going to be the niche for this class, right? It's going to. It may not be this. It may not be part of the dungeon meta, and it's probably not going to be part of the, that whole thing, because Elementalist is already one of the top DPSers in the game. Yeah. Staff already does an incredible amount of damage. But Tempest does have this role in the support of being in a smaller group of players that can really support that group. And, Aura Share, I think, is going to be fairly viable in particular circumstances and particular situations.
So dungeons.
Yeah.
Tempest is going to be good for dungeons.
As long as they have Icebow on their bar, yeah.
Like the problem is, the problem is with dungeons. Like, it won't be part of the meta dungeons. It'll work fine in dungeons. It'll work fine in fractals in those situations. It doesn't do enough personal damage that it's going to be part of that meta. Yeah. But we have the big challenging group content announcement that's coming up here in a couple of weeks. Who knows what that's going to exactly entail and how that's going to work. And I think in certain circumstances, much like the Herald, which I don't know if you guys talked about yet or not, but
not yet.
Much like the Herald, it's going to play this very support-driven role. And where there's this need for that support, then it's going to really excel. Tempest is really going to excel.
Should we move on to the
We
Herald,
should move on to Herald. I was thinking the same thing.
So, Shield, hey?
Shield! Yeah. I don't think anybody was surprised by Glint. That was, I think we all knew that we were going to get Glint. But Shield and a support, very, very support role. To me, when I read through Herald, to me it sounds like a Guardian on Dragon steroids. A support Guardian. I was like, this sounds amazing. Like
Dragonroids.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the sound of this class.
Interestingly, it does also open up more than one specialization having the same weapon.
Yep.
So for all of you people who want thief staff and that kind of thing out there, it's not completely out of the realms of possibility.
Right. Everyone gets a great sword.
Everyone gets a great sword. But I mean, what did we expect Glint to? What were we thinking that Glint would be in terms of the elite specialization? Because obviously the dragons are very, very powerful.
I was expecting like a DPS, although Revenant pretty much does everything. Like it's for legends. You can pretty much spec it to whatever you want. So I wasn't sure what Glint could be other than just another one of those, but it is a support, but a support that's different than Ventari. So it does give like that fifth role that it can take.
See, like I was kind of expecting maybe some more control kind of skills, that kind of thing. But then I think, like you said, it makes sense because Ventari is just like healing. This is more like buff management stuff, right? Giving out buffs to people and extending durations and that kind of thing. And I think the blog post said it was about like that kind of support, like buff support and like personal defense or something. I think it was a quote from that. So yeah, it makes sense. It's cool. I was still I wasn't sure about the specialization. I was thinking, well, maybe are we gonna only have this one legend? How is that gonna work? Like, I wasn't sure how a Revenant specialization would work. And now we know, I guess.
Yeah, so you can have two. You have Glint, and then you have another one. Do you have to have Glint, though, if you're
I would have thought so.
Are you locked? That's a question. Are you locked into Glint for one of them, and then for the other, you can pick whatever you want?
That's a curious question. Yeah.
Because it kind of works the other way around with the elite specializations.
I would assume so.
Because
you're not locked into your weapon with the others. You're locked into the trait line.
I think you'll definitely be locked into Glint because the whole profession mechanic is about which we'll probably talk about in a bit. But like the facets, using the kind of profession mechanic you get by specializing into glint, basically requires them there because it, right? At least one of them.
But the facet of nature you have no matter what, even when you're in another stance. So if you're a herald, if you have glint and Shiro, if you switch over to Shiro, you always have the facet of nature active, even if you're in another legend. But if you can switch out of glint and have Shiro and Ventari, do you still have that facet of nature? That's got to be a trait, right? Or that's the class.
Yeah,
I think you'll be logged into glint. I think you will.
Yeah.
Because it basically activates your facets, right? It basically blasts everyone around you with all of the buffs that you would get if you had them active. And I think, maybe you could be in Shiro and use it and it would still count, but I think you would have to have glint there. Because if you have, like, I don't know, it'd just be weird to be running, like, Shiro and Ventari or something like that, and then activate it and get all those buffs. Like, I don't know, that'd just be strange to me. Because then it would basically just be like running a normal Revenant, but with this extra skill that you have. Like, there'd be no point to not.
Right.
Unless you were logged in somehow.
I'm just kind of thinking this facet of nature. This is good. I'm quite enjoying that for just thinking about Malix. I love Malix. So if you can increase that resistance duration, you're going to be unstoppable.
This is like 50%.
I love that.
I don't necessarily think you're going to have to take glint. The facet of nature is like an F3 skill that carries over. I think like any of the elite specializations, they're really going to try and entice you to take that as part of, being a Revenant. I don't think they're going to force you to take it. On the other hand, I don't know why. I guess in some circumstances, you might want to take 2 other legends and just use glint as a trait line. We really have to know what her trait line is and how.
Yeah, I think that's
and how that synergizes with everything else. Like, would you really just take the glint trait line to just have F3, the F3 skill? Maybe. I mean, 50% boon duration is pretty big, and sharing out the boons is pretty huge. So I don't know that they're going to lock you into the legend, because the other legends you're not locked into. Currently, you could take Malix, Jalis, and Shiro, and then you're really only using 2 of those legends, even though you have all 3 trait lines. I don't know that that's very effective currently with Revenant. You could do that if you wanted to. But that's a great point, Alex. I hadn't really even thought about was increasing Malix's resistance by 50%. That's actually pretty big, because one of the problems I had with Malix was I couldn't quite get enough of that resistance all the time when I wanted. So that's actually pretty huge.
You've got to trait properly for it to get it on the elite skill. Currently, I think a couple of the skill tips were bugged because it says you can get it on the 8 and 9 when you trait for it, but at the moment it actually only works on the on skill 7 and the elite, which is a channel. But yeah, that 50% is going to be pretty nice. And it's also kind of I think that they were very clever in not giving super speed as a boon, because if they knew that they were going to do this facet of nature as well, can you just imagine a 50% duration on super speed as well? And I don't think alacrity counts as a boon either, which is a shame, because it's blue instead of the orange shield, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's considered a boon.
Ooh.
That's freezing.
However, there's other classes that can give you super speed, which then you can buff.
I always thought that, I thought that one of the interesting things about this blog post as well as giving us another arbitrary weapon, they also confirmed that underwater combat is going to be in the expansion, because they started talking about spear skills for the Revenant as well. So underwater combat is going to be in Heart of Thorns, which has been some kind of contestation for a while, because they
didn't necessarily. You're going to be able to take your Revenant into Central Tyria, where there's water.
Oh yeah.
So you need an underwater skill. You need underwater weapons.
That's true. So. Dang.
Did you get all excited? Are you just aching for underwater combat?
Yeah, I seem to be the only person on the planet who actually kind of enjoys the underwater combat.
I don't mind underwater combat either. I don't.
And
I actually like it because I like love spears. I like love spears and like pole arms. So
I don't
being able to use them.
prefer
Is
it, yeah.
it's such a shame. Even like half of ArenaNet thinks they cocked it up completely, and it's
honestly, I never got that either. I don't mind. I think the underwater combat is great. I don't mind it at all.
That was fine.
I think it's fine.
It's like that bit at the end of Wrath of Khan, just because some people can't think, there's like all players can't think in 3D, and then they drop underneath Khan and they come back up in the nebula and like pew, pew, pew. and then spoilers, Spock dies. But
thinking of 3D.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just kind of I think it's perfectly functional. It's pretty cool, and still no other MMO really does it.
No. I think it's really well done here, and I enjoy it as well. It's just been kind of underused, I guess, or not fleshed out as much as it could be. It's obviously a bit more bare bones than normal combat, so they've not been, and they've just not explored it super loads. Maybe they'll do something with it, but obviously the Revenant had to have something,
right?
And,
Yeah.
I'm not expecting any massive underwater content. Otherwise, I don't know.
I know. I seriously doubt that they developed that.
There'll be some. There'll probably be some water somewhere in the dungeon, right? The jungle, right? Like in a dungeon.
There's gotta be some lakes or rivers and stuff. But, I mean, like Alex. Alex, like I totally concur with you actually, because when I came to Guild Wars 2, I actually always really kind of enjoyed the underwater combat. I mean, it's not perfect, but when people kept complaining about it, like in WoW, when they had an entire zone underwater, which is this beautiful underwater zone, I loved every minute of that. Yet people are like, I hate it, nah, underwater. It's like I like it. I like underwater gameplay because of, just as you're saying, there's that 3D element that you have to like go up and down and think of the people below you and ahead of you. And I think they did a really good job in Guild Wars 2 for their underwater sequence, and I also just love swimming in Guild Wars 2 when you're just like swimming on the surface. Maybe it's because of like with like the Char especially, their bodies are so long. It's really fun because they're just like wee. It's like when you're going really fast, it's like I like just swimming around and looking at the scenery. Which is stuff that I do sometimes.
I think a lot of people don't like it just because it forces them to slightly change the way they play, right? The kind of the weapons, the skills, the rotations, or anything that they're used to using, they can't use. I don't know. I like Necromancer underwater. I like the shroud you have under there. The skills there are really a bit more interesting actually than stupid Death Shroud. Give me Reaper Shroud or something.
Necrocopter.
Yeah, boy.
But the Death Shroud has that really cool like blasting, like for like the #1 skill, which is like one of my favorite spells. I just love firing that thing.
You get Plague Blast underwater, which is better. It's actually better than the normal.
Yeah, it's a lot better. The underwater necro skill should be the above water necro skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, at least for the #1 skill.
Yeah,
because it shoots faster, and that's one of the problems that's holding back.
It's another reason why Reaper Shroud's so good, because your auto attack's so fast that Doomfire, your might on Life Blast stuff actually is worth having. Like, it's a lot better.
So what else about the Herald?
The shoulder looks amazing.
Yes, the shoulder armor. The shield itself is like a dragon wing.
Yeah,
it looks awesome.
I was really happy.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. Oh, I was just saying that I really liked how they implemented the actual lore into the kind of mechanics with the facets, and that they've, like, some people have criticized Guild Wars 2 of not like mentioning lore from Guild Wars 1 enough, and ArenaNet seems to have really listened to that, and so they've been adding these really fun callbacks, and like the actual blog post was saying, hey, so have you never heard of Glint? Well, here's a little recap of this character. And I liked how her role, they really said, lore-wise, Glint was a very big protecting character. Like, she literally protected entire races, essentially. So I really like that the theme and inspiration that they're going from it. So it's just really fun and cool when they take when you hear the game devs like really seriously like latch on to the lore of their games to implement new things. I really dig that.
That's why I was so excited for the Revenant in the first place, because the Revenant class itself is so full of lore, using legends from Guild Wars past and coming from the mists, and so I was over the moon when I heard about all the lore involved, and I do wonder, obviously, like, and we've said this a bunch of times, but there's gonna be a lot of Ritlock and a Herald, and I have a feeling he's gonna be both a Revenant and a Herald, because we're gonna be talking to Glint. That's just it would not make sense for us to not be talking to Glint when we like find her egg, we find her secret that she left in the jungle. Like it's just gonna make sense. So, that is so exciting, and I hope that if we actually play a Revenant going through the story, I just wonder how that's gonna come into it as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I have to. People might have missed this if in the beta. Heart of Thorns, it is required you play as Sylvari. It is absolutely
you're forced
essential.
When the expansion comes out, all of your characters are gonna get turned into Sylvari.
No,
and this might be a slight spoiler. I've heard people say, "Please give us a spoiler alert on this."
Okay, so this is a spoiler alert. Turn the mute on. Put your sound on mute until I wave. If you're a Sylvari, Mordramoth whispers to you through the verdant brink and tries to get you to do some really messed up stuff and just turn on everybody and kill people.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's so cool, and you don't get it if you're in the other races. You get
that makes me want to play. I'm going to play my human guardian first. That's just because she's my main. That's what I'm going to do. But it gives me. I especially now want to do that, because then if I play through it again as a Sylvari, I have a feeling that I'm going to have this completely different experience, and I'm going to be surprised again going through the story, and maybe because of that, pick different choices and stuff. So yeah.
I need to make a Sylvari.
Very replayable.
Because I think the normal races, those inferior races, they, I think they just hear kind of like growls and snarl, like just like kind of noise like that. But if you play Sylvari, you do actually hear dialogue, which is great.
I am your father.
Yeah, well, Webdor just said in chat, he doesn't actually say it to you, but you're just capable of hearing it when he speaks to others. Because I think at the point in the story, he's talking to one of the champions or something that you just fought. And he asks for aid, and so Mordramoth hears it and says, "Yes, my something," and then sends in more stuff. So, like, it's just cool that you, just because you're a Sylvari, he's not even talking to you. You can just understand.
Oh, it gets translated.
Communicating out. Yeah, just because, you can just understand him, which is so cool. Because you've not really heard of.
Some players might not actually pick up on that, because as you're playing throughout the zone, different enemies and bosses will be summoned or reveal themselves or whatever the case is, and he'll say things like kill them or get them or whatever, and you might think that that's just the NPC talking, with that's actually the dragon's voice coming through that you're hearing. Which was really interesting. The other thing is, if you don't play Sylvari, there seems to be some different dialogue that your group gives out as well. Yeah. Marjorie, for example, has this line that she goes on about Sylvari if you're not playing a Sylvari. So if you're a Sylvari commander, Marjorie kind of shuts her mouth and doesn't say anything. If you play something other than a Sylvari, like I played Misura, she has a piece of monologue in the first story where she tells you that she's taken the Char's side on this one and kind of Rox's side on this one, where she doesn't trust the Sylvari, she doesn't like them. She mentions like Scarlet and Aaron and several other things where every time these particular people are around, bad things are happening. Sylvari are this liability. This is the message that she conveys. I don't have the exact quote, but she doesn't give that monologue.
So
racist.
I thought we were good, that monologue, Jory, if you're Sylvari.
I thought
killed her sister.
I thought we were necro bros.
Oh, your fault.
Necro bros.
Not anymore.
The bromance is over.
Inks, what did you think of Stronghold this weekend? Were there many changes made to it? I didn't get a chance to jump into it. unfortunately, this
I played
weekend.
Stronghold I love Stronghold. I can't really get enough of it. I played hours and hours and hours of Stronghold. They didn't really make any changes. They fixed one bug with the overtime mechanic. Apparently that wasn't working before. Now, I didn't have any games go into overtime, sadly, so I really didn't get to see that activated. But I will say this, the player base has now evolved already to where games are generally not this Zerg rush where it's over in 2 to 3 minutes. There's a lot more defensive play going on. People now understand that the trebuchet in the map is vital to defense at particular points, so players go and make sure they're taking it out if that becomes a hassle or a problem. The beginning of the matches are still kind of starting the same, where everybody summons door breakers or a combination of door breakers and archers. They kind of try and control and rush that middle point. So more strategy has developed with Stronghold, and playing with the champions, Nika and Savad, are all really cool. Nika happens to be my favorite because of the stealth.
Same here.
But
Yeah.
Same. Something I noticed is like basically exactly what you're saying. There was more turnarounds I found this time than before. You know, they kind of get through your gates and it's kind of all over. But I had matches where they would be at our Lord, and we'd manage to defend and break through theirs and actually turn it around so we'd win, even though they were like through both of our gates before we were through any of theirs. And like, I don't know whether it's people just getting more used to how it's played or something, but people are understanding the kind of advantages of defending more and kind of playing a bit more tactically rather than who's the fastest at rushing through. But that happened in both people I was playing against and in teams I was in, where I don't know, like some matches we were so sure we'd win and then we wouldn't, and other times it looked like the enemy was going to win and then we managed to turn it around well. And I think a lot of people's concerns was just that it was going to become this thing that's over in 2 minutes every time, and it's all about who's the fastest and who can just shoot everything down as quick as possible. So, and to be honest, I friggin' love Stronghold. I played so much of it, and I played so much of it last time as well. I can't wait for that to come back. It's really, really good. That's the end.
Yeah. End of the show. Yeah.
One quick thing about Herald. You know, I think that the mechanics that they're using here in Herald are really interesting. We have this constant upkeep skill versus this blast skill or this burst skill, whatever you want to call that, the secondary skill of it. It really is going to highlight your energy management, and I'm hoping the traits in the glint line do something to help us out with that a little bit. One of the issues, actually, it was less of an issue this time around with Shiro. I think because he attacked so quickly, but I didn't have quite the same problem with managing my energy. It could also be just time with the class. But I think that glint with all these upkeep skills, even if the upkeeps are small, because if we look at the other legends, the upkeeps are not small. They're -7 and -10 and whatever the upkeep costs are. If you have, if you're playing Glint and you want to upkeep multiple skills at the same time, which apparently is viable to do, then you're really, really going to need to manage your energy very well. I have a slight fear that some of these skills are going to be, I turn it on for half a second and boom, I burst it right away, rather than sit in that, sit in the aura or whatever you want to call it. But it is interesting. I can't wait to see how it plays here tomorrow on Points of Interest. And again, this comes back to a Tempest kind of playstyle where you're very supporty. Roy on Twitter even said you should look and consider the Herald like you would a Bard or something from another MMO. And this kind of reminds me of Rift. Rift had this Bard class. I think it was called a Bard. It might have been called something else. But basically, it was this class that shared out boons, kept you buffed up, kept those things rolling so that you benefited the other characters. You didn't necessarily do a ton of damage yourself, and I don't know how much damage Glint is going to do, but the class is going to support all the other classes so that they can do more damage and so that they can perform better. I just hope that the game is able to reward you for being that support character. And I look forward to seeing how that develops.
So any other comments on Herald or Inks? I know you came in late. Any specific things that about the Reaper or Dragon Hunter that were especially impactful?
What do you think of the Reaper?
I'll have a video later today on Reaper, Revenant, and Dragon Hunter, because those are the 3 that I played the most. Dragon Hunter needs some work. He's okay. I liked his animations. I like the animations of all of them. I thought they were all fantastic. His really longbow needs a little bit of work. It either needs to be faster or do more damage. Probably it needs to be a little faster on some of the skills. And the traps are okay, but I'd like to see some tweaks. For example, the Procession of Blades, I'd like to see that be a whirl finisher. I think that would add a lot to that trap.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that trap is really just a damage soak. You just put it down and it damages and it goes away.
And it doesn't do that much, in all seriousness.
Yeah, it doesn't do a ton. Yeah, it doesn't do a ton. So I'd like to see that be a whirl finisher. That would add more meat to that particular skill. Dragon Hunter has... the traits on Dragon Hunter need tweaking as well. Some of the cooldowns, the internal cooldowns need to be changed a bit, and a couple of them need some buffs here and there. And then Dragon Hunter is in a really good spot. I did have a lot of fun playing Dragon Hunter, trying to get it to work in different circumstances, in different situations. I think the longbow is better than the Reaper's Greatsword in structured PvP, just because it has a little bit more utility, but it still needs some buffs. Now, flipping over to the Reaper, who I played probably the most of, I think I have 12 or 13 hours invested in the Reaper so far. He felt amazing. He's definitely much stronger in many ways than the classic Necromancer. It's just a shame that the Greatsword doesn't work at all in structured PvP. The weapon is too slow. It doesn't pack enough damage. Even in PvE, like, you can compensate for a lot of that by setting your, number 2 skill up ahead of time, and you can swing into skills, and that's great and all. The number 5 definitely needs a rework. It doesn't work quite nearly as well.
Yeah, the aiming and stuff of that is just it's okay.
But I feel like the auto attack 1 and 2, the 1 and 2 auto attack of the 3 chain, those need to be slightly faster, just a tad, and do some more damage. That would add more meat to the actual weapon itself. And then there is a problem with the Reaper where you have its actual cast time, which the actual cast times are actually in a decent spot. But when you add the animation on top of the cast time, it's now bleeding over into this extra time frame. So the animations need to happen slightly sooner in the actual cast time of it to make it mesh better. Because right now, if it says it takes 1 second to cast, it's really taking 1.05 seconds to cast. And that 0.05 seconds doesn't seem like a long time, but it locks you into that animation longer, which is a real problem in structured PvP. So, people are saying that the Greatsword worked good for them in PvP. It's not terrible, but you're opening yourself up for interrupts. I've seen a lot of circumstances happen to me as well. When you're using shouts paired with the Greatsword, a Chronomancer, for example, was very easy, a Mesmer was very easy to come in and just basically stun lock you down until you can't do anything and you're dead. So there's some issue there. There's a little bit of issue there that needs to be looked at, needs to be balanced. The Reaper stance is absolutely fantastic. I don't really think there's really many changes, if any, needed there.
They're all pretty satisfying, aren't they?
The class itself, I realize it sounds like I'm talking about a lot of negatives about these classes. The positives are that they all play really well. The flavors are fantastic. It does give you a different way to play that class that you're not necessarily used to playing. And I think that is really the goal here. The goal is really to make you play the class in a different way. If it doesn't do that, then it's failing as its job as an elite spec. It's not about doing more damage or being better or any of those things. It's about changing the way you would play that class. Dragon Hunter, for example, you would never play a Guardian like that. You just wouldn't, because that's not how it really conveys itself. I stayed at range for a lot of the times, which kind of takes away from the traps, but I didn't have to close that gap really in order to do a decent amount of damage. And you just wouldn't play Guardian that way. You wouldn't sit in the back line or mid line and fire away. You really need to get in there, in order to be Guardian-like. So
Yeah.
I thought all that stuff was really interesting. And the Reaper brings... the Reaper is just a real satisfying class to play. It had good mobility. It had lots of damage, which is going to help the class tremendously. Yeah, just... There was a particular pairing as well with Spite and Soul Reaping that it just worked immediately. It gelled really well. Class was just a lot of fun to play. And the Greatsword, even with some of its shortcomings, the Greatsword is still really fun to just pull them in, drop your wells, swing your sword. The cooldown is almost instantaneously off, and you can use number 2 again and again and again, and it's just a lot of fun. So absolutely loved all the classes that I played, and I thought they were all in... I think all of them are actually in a pretty good spot. They just need little tweaks here and there, and we'll see that in BWE2 and when we get some more of these to test and play. The mastery system...
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to ask, what did you think of the shouts overall? Because I kind of found myself using, I think, maybe the Elite, and that was about it. Like, I ended up swapping out to my wells quite quickly. I think they felt too slow as well. I think maybe had they been instant activation, it might have been a bit better. Having to channel, even though it's like a split second, it kind of felt like when there's... Because like one of them was like a stun break. And it's like it's like impulse for me to just go for my stun break when I get stunned. And then, you know, when your stuns nearly ran out, like anyway, by the time it's been cast, it kind of felt, I don't know.
Yeah, so the shouts on Reaper, the Elite was fantastic. It probably doesn't really need to be changed at all. Although currently it's like a 2-second cast time. That could see a slight reduction, and that would make that skill absolutely fantastic. But the Elite shout, I thought, was really good, really useful in a lot of circumstances. There was 2 other shots. I keep forgetting the one shot that I used all weekend, but that was really good. Suffer was decent.
Was it You're All Weaklings?
You're All Weaklings.
You're All Weaklings, right. Yeah.
That's the same one.
So much fun.
There was one shout that summoned a bunch of Jagged Horrors. Jagged Horrors are still useless, so they either need to be replaced with a different monster, which they did talk about in a live stream a long while ago, or you really need to buff those guys. Using that shout was semi-satisfying to see all of those little minions get summoned and go after, but then they didn't do anything. So that needs to be looked at. I think that shout is good and useful when and if those guys work and do meaningful damage.
Just make them flesh golems, you know?
Summon a bunch of flesh. And actually, the flesh golem makes a little bit of sense because Chahern in the personal story in classic or core Tyria, there's a part in the story where he summons like 5 or 6 flesh golems, and it's like, how can he do that? I can't do that. Why can he do that? You know?
Because he cheats.
This could totally be a call back to that, where you can now summon flesh golems as well. And I'm not saying they should have knockdown or all this other stuff, but the creature could do more damage. It's more meaningful because they're large and you can actually see them and track them to see what's happening there. But, you know, that particular shout needs a little bit of work. Rise, yeah.
All right, real quick. PvP leagues were announced.
Oh, yeah. Damn, I forgot about that.
At Gamescom.
Well, it's okay.
Yeah, PvP leagues is really exciting, actually. You know, for me personally, it makes me want to get better at structured PvP to actually make a run at some of these things. Now, I don't have any delusions that I'm going to make it to legendary rank and be amazing and standing on stage next to Rom and all those other guys. I don't have delusions that that's ever going to happen, but it does. I do like this. I think it's going to bring a lot of players back. Matter of fact, one of the guys in our Maven guild, Crescens, I know that he has, you know, he's got this on again, off again relationship with Guild Wars 2, where he comes back, he plays, he's excited, and then he loses that excitement and he goes away. And I heard from him. He's a member in the guild that me and Peachy belong to, Maven.
Ah, right.
But he has this on-again, off-again relationship with Guild Wars 2, and he's a big, like, structured PvP player, and PvP's always lacked something for him. So he comes back, he plays it, he gets his fill, and then he goes away and he plays other games. And I talked to him the other day, and he says, well, I guess I'm buying Heart of Thorns now because League is just that draw for him. It's that draw to bring him back into the game, to get him excited about meaningful rewards, about meaningful competition that's going to rank you as how well you are per player and pit you against, similar skilled players. And I think that is, Colin said at one point that this is something that has been missing from the game since launch. This is really the next catapult or catalyst to get structured PvP to that situation that it needs to be in. The WTS hype, for those who watched it, how exciting those games were. I can't convey to you if you've ever been to one of those games live, the feeling that those bring. It's just an exciting event to be at. I think it's exciting to watch even on Twitch, for example. And I think that Leagues is going to bring more players in, which is going to help develop that community even more. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Do you like the addition of the legendary back piece? Because there is a back piece that you can earn only through these leagues, and it's kind of how legendaries are changing in Heart of Thorns to you get like a tarnished version as the precursor, and then you kind of level it up. There's different versions until you get to the final shiny version, and they're doing the same with this back piece where unfortunately the ultimate version of it is going to be reserved for those legendary PvP players. But everyone can participate in leagues. It's just how high of a tier are you going to be able to get to, and you can still earn this back piece. But like I said, the higher you get, the flashier it'll be, and it looks really cool.
I think it's a fantastic idea. One of the things that Guild Wars is missing at the moment is exclusivity with its legendaries. You can't tell if someone's got lucky in the Mystic Forge or ground thousands of gold, or hell, just even put real money into the game and bought their legendary.
Right.
But if you see somebody with PvP specific legendaries, then that person is very heavily invested in a particular game type.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fantastic idea. And not only that, on top of that, it radically reduces the number of people that are going to have it. Because if you can only get it at the top of tier 6 or whatever it is, there are not going to be that many people who have it, because the system is designed in such a way that, unlike how you rank in PvP now, you can't just continuously go in and play matches, and regardless of your win-lose streak, you're eventually going to get to the top tier. It doesn't work like that. So you are going to have to be excellent to get it.
Did they not say that you'd still be able to earn materials if you lose matches? You'd still be earning whatever you need to get it, but I think it's going to be reduced pace, very reduced paced or something like that, than if you're winning loads.
At the upper tiers, you can lose tiers.
Yeah, I don't. So I know what Corvus is saying. I think there's a bit of confusion here. The very lower tiers, tier 1 and tier 2, I think you can play and you can lose games, and there's no penalty for you losing. You're not going to lose your rank. You're not going to lose, or rather your tier. You're not going to lose the pips in those tiers, so that when you get to a particular rank, then you can no longer lose rank, but now you can lose pips, and it gradually increases until where you're losing pips and you're losing tiers, and you have to play, be good, and win in order to continue to increase. Now, this legendary back piece is only going to be, as far as I understood it, it's only going to be available for those who reached the top tier.
Right. Okay.
The good thing about this is that these players who reach the top tier aren't going to be given this back piece in the first season, right? No. You're going to earn some of the pieces that you need. You're going to be able to make some progress in the first season, but subsequent seasons, you're going to need to continue to be at the top of your game in order to continue this. Now, I don't know how many seasons it's going to take in order for you to complete this legendary back piece, but it's not a one-and-done deal. So this is a carrot on a stick to continue to get you to compete at the very highest level. And by refreshing these seasons, it keeps players re-engaged every season. It draws people back into that every season. It's not this static or stagnant leaderboard where I got to the top, I'm going to quit playing the game, so I'm always on the leaderboard. No. This is something you have to continue to earn season after season. And I think that's a very important thing for the game type itself. Not a 100%. Stagnant leaderboard, but something that resets over time so that you can build back up and so that you can reprove yourself as a good structured PvP player.
I think it's interesting as well that we got a legendary back piece for PvP. We've got one for fractals. Are we gonna see one for World v World? Maybe one for kind of raids,
They have
something
to give
else,
World versus
maybe.
World stuff. They have to.
Yeah.
There's-
And I mean, everyone's gonna want to go for a legendary back piece. You know, I can imagine anyway. Like they can't just throw like 1 or 2 or 3 in the game. I think because it's not like, you know, I think there needs to be like a good variety of them, unless they make them like really impossible to make, like super difficult. And maybe that's how it'll be. This PvP one's gonna take a long time to make. You know, the fractal one could be equally kind of grindy. I think that'd be good. But I don't know. I'm curious now, like of other kind of game modes or like sub game modes that we might see back pieces for, based off or earnable in. That'd be quite cool.
Yeah, this is definitely a system that needs to come to World vs. World. And possibly, like, whatever Challenger Group content is, hopefully one for Challenger Group content as well.
Yeah.
And then this incentivizes players, like, I want a legendary back piece. You know what? I'm not good at structured PvP. I'm never going to be legendary, so maybe I can't own that one. But I can play World vs. World and earn one there, or I can play Fractals and I can earn one there. And so it's important to have different looks and different feels, even though at the end of the day, these are basically the same thing. They look different, they look special, and they can signify and they can identify the player as, I'm a good structured PvP player, I'm a good World vs. World player, I'm good at Fractals or whatever the content is. And this way, everybody still gets rewarded, but you also feel like a special snowflake, which is, believe it or not, very important. You still feel like a special snowflake because you have a particular look that someone else might not be able to obtain.
It's like titles, but in skin form.
Yeah,
Which I think there needs to be more
Yeah.
of. Or they
For
or they need to make titles a little more viewable,
Flashy.
a little more flashier. Like right now,
right.
like I rarely notice when someone has a title. And I think they need to change the color, or that's a whole nother topic. But we're gonna end the actual show there. We'll talk some more in the post show about some stuff. So if you are watching here on Twitch, thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, please scroll down and check out the links to everyone's YouTube and Twitter. There's links down there to all of our stuff if you want to see more. So go check it out. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for watching,
Bye-bye.
guys. Take care.